Hi there, everybody. Welcome to day two. So today is day two. Let's hang out here for just a second while we wait on a few people to join us. There we go. As you guys are all coming in, just give me a little wave. Let me know that you're here and that you can hear me okay. Sometimes with these things, I can't tell. Sometimes if I don't have my headphones in, it's a serious issue. If I do have them in, it's a serious issue. So I'm trying. Hi. Okay, good. Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Looking pretty good, I think. Okay, good. So, okay, great. Okay, so now I want to hear from a few of you. Did any of you, after yesterday's chat, were you able to pinpoint any of good morning, good afternoon, officially? Yes. Were any of you able to pinpoint some of the places that you were starting to think, yeah, this might be one of those foods that I'd like to try to take out, add that to my list? How did everybody feel after that chat yesterday? Did anybody come up with some good ideas? And if so, what were they? Hey, Brittany. Hey, let me know in the comments there and just see. Hi, Eileen. Hi. Let me know how you guys are doing with it. And then as you're doing that, we'll wait for a few more people to pop on, and then we're going to get right into day two here. So if you have your workbook with you, we're going to be starting today on page 9. So it says day 2, replace, right at the top, okay? And so just a brief recap. Yesterday, we were focused on how to remove the potential issues. And then today, we're going to talk about the things that might need to be replaced in the diet to provide your body and your gut what it needs. And so the first 2 blanks in your workbook are remove and then replace, okay, so that you have that to refer to when you go back. Okay, before we move forward, any questions from any of you about yesterday's chat? Anything in there that you want to try to go over real quick before we move forward? Did you run into any issues, or do you maybe need a little bit more time to be able to really decide how everything ended up feeling? What are you feeling? What are you thinking? Let's see. If nobody has any questions, that's totally okay too, and we can just jump in to today's chat. So day 2, this is actually one of my favorite conversations to have with people because it involves so much of the day-to-day decisions that have to get made. Okay, so check out your workbooks. Let's go there. Again, we're on page 9, okay? And you'll see in that kind of pink cursive writing there, the basic list of requirements that our bodies need to get out of food in order to baseline function, okay? So if you're reading this, fiber, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, phytochemicals, amino acids, omega fatty acids, complex carbohydrates, water, it's just like, what are you supposed to do with that? Are you supposed to take each one of these things? And this isn't even an exhaustive list. So are you supposed to take each and every one of these and make a list of all of the foods that contain those items, and then make another list of which of those foods you're going to have today, and then decide how you're going to do meals, and then make a it's just insanity. It's way, way too overwhelming. And going back to what we talked about yesterday, it just is way too many decisions to have to make. So all of those things that we just named there, they're all vitally, vitally important to the integrity of the gut, to the health of the gut, to the environment of the gut, and just your overall well-being, mentally and otherwise. Okay, so how do we approach this? How do we manage to make sure that we're getting all of those items without driving ourselves absolutely insane, or even more insane than you already feel? Here's how. Boil it down for you. We are going to take a look at 2 things, okay? 2 things. And they are color and which foods are in season. And when you take a look at each of those 2 things, the real thing that you're trying to accomplish here is getting variety in your diet. However, when I say Yeah, a variety of things. It's still too broad, right? Because that could mean anything. What might that mean? Let me ask, whoever's listening live right now, or if you're listening to this later, shoot me a note and let me know what are the foods that you find yourself eating over and over and over again, because I know we all have them. For me, I have a lot of eggs. I eat eggs a lot in the morning. What else? I find myself doing a lot of sweet potatoes. I also do a lot of shrimp. How about for everybody else in there? What are the foods that you eat over and over? Because I know that I am not the only one that gets stuck in these like food ruts where it's difficult to feel inspired. And so you just keep going back to the same thing that you know over and over and over again. And so, in order to stop that, in order to restart that cycle so that you can start to make different decisions and then you can start providing for your gut what it actually requires, we look at this idea of variety. Now, I'm going to talk about each of the two steps because, like I said, to simply say variety is just too simplistic. When you start looking at, oh, here we go, bacon and regular potatoes, probably. Oh my God, of course, those two things are super common. You know why? Because they can be super versatile and easy and also so delicious. And so while the decision-making process in a grocery store or online, if you're shopping online right now, is completely exhausting, we all recognize colors, right? Colors are in a more elementary place in our mind, and they become these categories that are far more simplistic, even more simplistic than eat a fruit, eat a vegetable, eat a whole grain, get variety, right? We recognize color, and the way that colors feel to us are sort of like they remind us of our childhood, and it's easy and simple. And so when I say take a look at color, this is why. So when you're looking at the food that you have in your cart or that you have in your kitchen or in your home right now, take stock. How many colors do you have? And I think it goes without saying, but when I say colors, I don't mean like if you get a purple bag of Skittles and a red bag of Skittles. I mean, where does the color from our food come from? It comes from plants. It comes from fruits and vegetables, right? And so when you're looking, oh, there's another one, apples and bananas. Who eats apples and bananas all the time? Because they're easy, familiar fruits, right? You could take them and run. Kids like them. They're easy to cut up. They go in smoothies pretty easily. Those are super common. But what about the other things that are yellow and red? What about pineapple? What about mangoes? What about tomatoes? What about peppers? This is what I'm thinking when I'm telling you to think about color. So I'm going to direct you to your workbook here. I'm on page 10 now, okay? And if you actually scroll down, oh, I lied, page 11. You'll see at the bottom of page 11, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, this really cool color tracker. Now, if you print out this workbook, you could take this page with you and just write in each one of these blocks, either food that you want to get that accomplishes each color, or take a look halfway through your shopping experience and say, okay, I'm looking at my cart. I have a check for a red item, a check for an orange item, a check for a yellow item. However it is that it's going to make sense to you to be organized in a way that is going to physically show you these are the different colors that I have. If you find that there are 4 boxes that don't have any color in them, now you have an organized plan as to which pieces need filled in. I heard this question asked once where somebody asked, well, which color is the most important color to have? And a colleague of mine answered it like this: whichever color you don't have is the most important color to have. I loved that. I love that because it really drives home this idea that one thing individually doesn't really make or break most things on the long run. So what you really need is this variety. And now here we come back to variety, right? And so take a look at that color tracker. And whatever, you don't have to use that one. You can write it down, you can put it in your phone, or you can just visually take a look at what you have. Here's the other thing. It is not necessarily vital that you have every single color every single day. And the reason that I'm saying that is because when you start thinking in those absolute terms, you stop being in a space where it's manageable. So don't put that pressure on yourself. Don't tell yourself, oh well, I have to make a whole extra meal because I don't have anything purple today. No, that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that look at a week's time. In the whole week, what color did you offer your body? That's how you do it. So take a look at the week, and that's why I often use the idea of look at your cart, because you go shopping for a few days at a time, maybe longer, and that is really going to be that's the food that you have available for a certain period of time. Make sure that it's got all of the different colors in it. Okay. Now, you might be thinking, yeah, but I don't know how to cook this item, so I'm not going to buy it. And I would challenge you to think the other way around. Challenge yourself to buy that item. Eggplant, for example, I'll just use that because it's purple and it's kind of unique. And I know from my experience, a lot of people are not as familiar cooking eggplant. That might not be you, but I would challenge yourself to purchase the item anyway. And then you find yourself in a position where you have to figure out how to cook it, or else it's going to go to waste, and then you've thrown out your money, basically. And just that nice little switch and swap in the way that you're thinking about things is going to put you in a different position. It's going to put you in a place where you're making yourself come up with decisions. You're putting yourself in this nice spot where you have to choose differently. That's the point. That's the goal. But it's still gentle and kind. You're not putting yourself in these black and white boxes where you're a failure if you don't figure out how to cook zucchini right, And so that's the piece about color. Tell me so far, how many of you have had some different colors in your day today? You just drop me a little note. Let me see what colors we're working with so far today. For me, I had purple sweet potatoes with my eggs this morning. That's really all I've eaten, I guess. Not particularly colorful so far, is it? How about some other people? Let's see here. And while you are all thinking about that, I'm going to go ahead and send a little link. I'm going to comment here myself with this really awesome link. A red apple. Oh, hey, Allie. One red apple. Very good. Yellow and red. Yep, awesome. Absolutely. And what colors do you guys feel like you have a trickier time getting in? Sometimes I feel like for me, blues and purples can be a little bit tricky because I don't know. The berries are really awesome choices. Eggplant, like we talked about, is really awesome. Purple carrots, love purple carrots. Those are really great. Red and green, Darcy had tomatoes and kale in your eggs. Love that. Eggs, bacon, and shredded hash browns. Yep, that sounds really yummy. Okay, guys, so this is awesome. And do you all understand how getting variety by looking at color can really boil things down? Does that seem clear? Let me know if that idea came across clearly and you understand what I mean with all of that. Because next, we're going to move into the second part of this, which is taking a look at foods that are in season. So if you want, I'm pointing to it on my screen like you can see it. I put a link here in the comments called Seasonal Food Guide, and it's this really great site. It allows you to select the state that you live in and which month it currently is. And then what it does is it shows you all of the produce that is in season in that particular area. The reason that I love this is because if you do your best to eat food seasonally, literally by nature of following that thought process, when you look back over an entire calendar year, you'll be able to see, oh, I had all of these different types of fruits and vegetables, and I did it beautifully as they were available to me by season. And so, for example, we're coming out of the summer months where berries, strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, watermelon are really wonderful, huge, delightful, cheaper versions of the fruits that we have available to us. But as we gently move into the fall, or abruptly, I guess, as it has sort of been feeling lately, we are now having new things that are available to us. Apples and peaches and actually winter fruits, believe it or not. Citrus oranges are a winter fruit. Pears, winter fruit. Kiwi, pomegranate, winter fruit. And so these are the pieces of thinking about variety that are also going to come really naturally. And honestly, use that link because it'll inspire you a little bit, but you'll see what's most abundantly available at the store when you go. Those are the things that are in season the most. How many of you have had a tomato in the middle of February and you are like, that wasn't the best tomato I've ever eaten? And it's because it's not supposed to be grown. Now, here's the thing. This is how I would approach this. Think about what's in season and purchase those fruits and vegetables first. Take a look at your cart. Do you have a lot of color? And then if it's January and you're just dying to have blueberries, then you buy blueberries. Sometimes that is gonna have to just be the way that it is, and it's okay. It's okay. But the overall arching goal of using this as a tool to help accomplish the variety piece, it's just so simple. It's just so simple. It's what's already in front of you, and then you go by color, and then all of a sudden you look back at your year and you're like, man, I tried 10 or 12 different new foods this year that have offered me endless amounts of new nutrition and nourishing benefits to my body. And oh man, I actually am starting to feel better now. What a concept. And so if you look, oh, Darcy, eating local, farmers markets, etc. Oh, it's huge. It's huge. If you have a farmers market around you, it's an amazing starting point because guess what? These are the farmers. And so the only things that they can grow are what's in season, particularly in your area. So if that's an option for you, if it's available to you, it's like a no-brainer. You could just go. And also, those are people who are really great to ask. Hey, I'm looking forward to the next few months, and I'm wondering what should I be thinking about getting if I can't come here to the farmers market. What do you find as the farmer? What's in season in March and April, for example? And then, of course, you have that link that you can refer to. I'm going to bring you back to the workbook here. And you'll notice on the top of page 11, you've got a nice little spot there where you can pop in different foods that are in season. And again, you could do this from information that you already know, something that we talked about here today, or go to that link and write out a bunch of different foods that are in season, make sure you're getting all of your colors in, and then use this as part of your grocery list to hold yourself accountable to getting this bit of variety. Now, let me connect this to the point that we were trying to make. Why are we talking about getting variety in anyway? Like, why does this even matter? It matters because the fruits and vegetables and the whole grains that we eat, the plants that we eat, provide our body and our gut with so many nourishing aspects that, for the purposes of this training, are so vast. The best way to boil it down and keep yourself from going crazy is to take this approach. Look at what's in season, look at what your colors are, and by nature of following those two things, you're going to be providing yourself with most of what you need. As with everything in nutrition, small disclaimer. If you are noticing for yourself that every single time you eat vegetables or fruits or food that contains a lot of fiber, for example, which typically are fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, then you really need to start piecing together a different pattern for yourself, okay? This could be a sign of many, many different things, including bacterial overgrowth in the large intestine, bacterial overgrowth in the small intestine, which is known as SIBO. It could be a sign of IBS or all sorts of other things. It doesn't mean that they are the actual bottom line issue. It means that there's another layer underneath that's causing discomfort when your body breaks down and metabolizes things like fiber. And that kind of ties into what we were talking about yesterday. So if you notice that you have to take out an entire group of foods like fiber, this should be a red flag to you. This should be a sign that there's something deeper that you need to dig out to try to see, I mean, if you've got some sort of bacterial overgrowth, or if you have something like candida, which is a yeast overgrowth in the intestines, I'm not sure that just changing your food is going to kill that stuff off. Those are live organisms. Now, sometimes people can make very drastic changes for a period of time, and it will start to self-correct, but certainly not all the time. So, we've got that bit of a gray area. I'm only mentioning it because I wanted to go into your file of possibilities, and I just don't want you to be blindsided if you start eating all of these wonderful variety of fruits and vegetables and actually feel worse for some other unrelated reason. Okay. Any questions about those two steps? These are two of my favorite things. I implement them for myself every single time that I go to the store. Anytime I'm making a meal, I'm really thinking like, how do I make sure that I'm getting a color, this, that, or the other thing? Any questions from anybody, or success stories of having done this for yourself already? What are you all thinking here? Okay, so back over to your workbook, I want to talk about just a couple other things here in terms of other items that may need to be replaced. Okay, so if you scroll up to page 10, I'm just going to give you a list here of the other items that I want you to fill into these lines. So right kind of in the middle of page 10, we're looking at those 6 lines. Other pieces of the puzzle that may need to be replaced are digested enzymes. We kind of talked about this yesterday. I think Brittany asked a question about it, so we can get to that. Secondly, pro or prebiotics. Okay. Third, vitamin or mineral supplementation. Fourth, gut healing powders. Such a broad category, I know. Third, DGL. It's an acronym, DGL. And then lastly, ginger tea. Okay. And I'm just going to go through a few of those. Are any of these items familiar to any of you, or are all of these sort of like, I have no idea what any of this stuff is. I assume vitamin mineral supplementation is something that we're all pretty familiar with, and I also assume a probiotic, prebiotic. So I'm just going to go through each one of these items super briefly to provide a little bit of insight for you so that you can apply them as necessary. Most of this stuff is sort of over the counter, and I want to make it very clear that I am not super familiar with anybody's situation here, so I'm absolutely not giving any individual advice. I'm just giving information about each of these products, and then you can take it to a healthcare provider or make a decision that you feel is best for yourself, okay? Everybody feel clear about that? So let's see. Let's start first with the digestive enzymes, because this is something that we talked about a bit yesterday. So when do you want to consider a digestive enzyme? I think that places where this could be a good idea is if you are somebody who feels that every single time you eat, you feel really bloated, or if you are seeing undigested food in your stool. So pieces of undigested food in your stool is, kind of a sign that you're not digesting things. There are some foods that are really, really rich in the certain types of fibers that do not get broken down, and so they will kind of come out more whole than others. But if you're seeing pieces of whole vegetables or skins of different types of fruits, things like that, or If you notice that your stool is particularly oily, that could be a sign that you're not digesting fats. These would all be situations where you might want to consider asking somebody about using a digestive enzyme. What you would do is you would take this along with your food. So ideally 10 to 15 minutes prior to your meal, but sometimes, almost all the time, I forget to take mine when I decide that I want or need to. And so I do find that it's still very helpful when I take it with my meal or even directly after. It's not as effective, of course, but it's definitely still going to be sort of helpful there. So those are situations where you should think about using a digestive enzyme. Anybody have a question about the enzyme piece of things? Does that feel confusing, or would you like any more clarification about the enzyme? Brittany, did that feel a little bit more clear for you? You guys can just sort of let me know because I'm going to scooch along here to pre and probiotics. Very brief clarification on the difference here. You can think about a prebiotic as being the food for the probiotic. That's the easiest way to think about it. So they are two very different things. Naturally, we get a lot of prebiotic in our fiber-rich foods, which are your fruits and vegetables and your whole grains, which is going right back to the need for color via variety and what is in season. Does that make sense? So every time you're eating those nice fiber-rich foods, okay, Brittany, great, glad. Every time you eat those fiber-rich foods, that nice variety of fiber-rich foods, you're providing your gut with tons of variety of different food sources to feed the good bacteria that thrive in your gut, to create an environment in that gut that's going to allow the bacteria that need to be alive there to function optimally. And also why sometimes people will notice that they have a tricky time with fiber. So a lot of times people who have bacterial overgrowth will get really bad symptoms by eating fiber because it's overfeeding what's overgrown. And that is an overly simplistic explanation of it, but I think gets the picture across there for you. So, which leads me to this point, taking a probiotic is not the blanket statement recommendation that I think a lot of us assume it is. You can't just take a probiotic and think like no matter what, it's helping you, because it really might not be. If part of the reason that you're experiencing some of the nasty symptoms that you have, if part of that underlying root cause is bacterial overgrowth, then providing more bacteria is not going to be a helpful step. It's just not. It also might be, like I said, why you may have an issue with the fiber. That requires much further digging, much further investigation, and some serious work with a professional to be able to figure out how to come up with the best solution for you. There are absolutely solutions that can be had, no question. Nearly all of my clients that I work with have bacterial imbalances, and we sort them out. So also, all probiotics not created equal. The way that, and I think I mentioned this yesterday, but any type of supplementation, you get what you pay for. That doesn't mean that you have to search for the most expensive option and trust that and that alone, but it does mean, typically speaking, if there's a buy one, get one free on a multivitamin, it's probably because it's filled with cheap versions of the vitamins and minerals that your body doesn't actually have access to. So don't even waste the $5. That's, go get a coffee or something. That's how I feel about it. Also, this is so important, this point. There is a misunderstanding that you can totally rebuild your gut microbiome by taking probiotics, and it's simply incorrect. There are certain bacteria, lots of bacteria, the majority of bacteria that exists in our gut that we do not have the ability to recreate in a capsule or powder or liquid form. Not all of the bacteria that our body requires can be taken in a supplement. That's just simply not available. And so know that for yourself. Don't allow yourself to get too far behind with your gut health and then think, oh, it's no big deal. At some point, I'll just take a bunch of probiotics and repopulate my gut and everything will be okay, because it simply won't happen for you. There are a lot that you can, right? You can do some serious work, but I'm telling you, once the strands of some of these bacteria are eliminated, they are eliminated. Now, even if they get down really, really, really low, the things that you can do to help foster an environment for them to be able to grow and repopulate are things like your fiber in your fruits and vegetables that you are now going to purchase based off of variety with color and what is in season. Have I connected the dots enough times here for you all? Do you understand where we're going with all of this? So just be really mindful of that and respectful of the bacteria in your gut, because a lot of what we're finding now is that the lack of certain strands of bacteria the connection to that lack is really starting to pop up in connection with all sorts of other diseases. And that's all I'll say on it. So just respect that whole process for yourself, okay? Vitamin and mineral supplementation, I'm going to breeze over because this is something that there are hundreds of thousands of products out there. I think my favorite rule for this is, like I said, you get what you pay for, and look at the other ingredients. Look at the ingredients that are listed on the bottom of the label where it says, it'll say either other ingredients or inactive ingredients, and read that. If the list is this long and has a bunch of food dyes in it, no, choose something different. There is zero reason why your multivitamin needs to have any sort of color in it. Do any of you care if there's blue or green dye in your supplement? Do you care what color it is? We just don't care. And so the fact that it goes into it is really a concerning, weird, unnecessary place for that sort of thing to enter our body, particularly when you are doing something specifically to try to help yourself. So just don't get trapped in that. That's going to be my 2 cents on that. How many of you are thinking, oh man, I wonder what multivitamin I have right now? I want you all to, if you have any, go home and check. Go home and check. Make sure that what you have is worth you taking. And if it's not, just ditch it. Don't even give it to somebody else. Just ditch it and get something that's more beneficial for yourself, okay? Gut healing powders. These are things that, these are a little bit trickier, and usually you need to be working with some sort of provider or professional to help you get these. And they're used really specifically. I know somebody left a comment yesterday on the video about how you can help heal up the lining of the gut, how you can help heal some of that leaky gut, those spaces that can sometimes happen in between each of the single cells that create the lining of the gut. And sometimes this is with these gut healing powders. So one of the, I'll just put it this way, they contain items that really, really help with the mucus lining of the gut, and they help provide the amino acid structure that the cells really like and need to be able to tighten up again. I'm going to just leave it at that for now. If anybody has any other questions about those, absolutely let me know, and I'll be happy to more directly answer some of those questions. I just really wanted you guys to know that it was a product that existed so that you can start understanding how to ask the right types of questions in order to obtain the right types of answers for yourselves, okay? How many of you have heartburn or GERD or acid reflux? Let me know if that sounds like anything that you've been experiencing. And for those of you who watch this later, shoot me a comment there too and let me know if you suffer from this. Because if so, if you're popping Tums all the time, I want you to explore the option of the supplement called DGL. And it stands for deglycerinated. I think there's another syllable in there that I always forget to pronounce, but you'll know what I mean when you see it. You could buy it in a supplement section anywhere. Deglycerinated licorice. It's basically a very specific form of licorice root. Now, I know when I say that, you start thinking of like black licorice or anise flavored things, and that's just not what it is. They have them in these little chewable forms that you can get. Eileen, you've got heartburn occasionally. Okay, Brittany, yeah, okay, and acid reflux, yeah. So go look for these little chews. You can get them in like a chocolate flavor most of the time, and you just chew them when as needed. So this isn't something that you would necessarily take every day, but you would use them as needed to help relieve heartburn. In my experience, the people who I've recommended this to, instant relief, and it works way better than Tums, and it doesn't have any nasty side effects for you. Okay, so give that a shot. Again, it's just this really nice, what we call mucilagenic herb that kind of goes and coats the inflammation. Here's the thing, it's a Band-Aid. It's a useful one, just like we talked about yesterday, but it is a Band-Aid. It's not actually solving the underlying root cause, but it will provide you with relief while you work on finding the root cause. I'm going to do this little plug here too for you because this is important. The symptoms of acid reflux and too much acid are the same symptoms that a person has when they have too little acid reflux, or too little stomach acid. So the symptoms of not enough stomach acid and too much stomach acid are the same. And so very often we'll be taking these antacids to suppress stomach acid, all the while actually making the problem worse and worse and longer and longer. Whereas if you maybe try switching to this CGL, it will help relieve some of the pain that you're feeling without actually suppressing acid. Does that make sense to everybody? This is so important because so many people come to see me after being on PPIs or other antacids for years and years and years, and their stomach acid is so low and so obliterated that they can't digest their food anymore. They don't digest food properly, so it goes undigested into the small and large intestines, where bad bacteria can feed off of undigested proteins, and then we have bacterial overgrowth, and now you can't eat fiber, and now you're just a complete mess. You see how it can go all the way upstream and be as simple as low stomach acid? Just be really mindful of that and allow yourself to question. Just allow yourself to ask the question, okay? Okay, and then lastly, ginger tea. So ginger is a natural stimulant to something called the migrating motor complex. I'll put it in the comments here. Ginger stimulates the migrating motor complex. Let's see here. And the migrating motor complex is this nerve system that squeezes your intestines and pushes food through your system. So as you can imagine, you know, your intestines are not vertical. It's not as if gravity is working on the food in your intestines. They're twisty and turny and loopy, right? Just like this. And so they require some sort of squeezing motion to move things through. If that migrating motor complex isn't being stimulated properly, the food will move really slowly. And sometimes that makes us feel really, really full after a very small meal, or very bloated after a small meal, or constipated sometimes, or kind of that constipation diarrhea system. And so if you are thinking, ooh, that might be me, go get some ginger root, super cheap. Peel a little section of it off, maybe like a 1-inch section or so, just guessing. Chop it up a little bit roughly, pour some hot water over it, ginger tea. If you taste it and it's a little bit too strong, cut back how much you put in. You got to play around with it a little bit. Or just buy a tea bag of ginger tea. Make sure there's not a whole bunch of other ingredients in it, and see if that helps. You can drink several cups of this a day. It's just a root. You know, there's no caffeine in it. Unless if you're on medications where you think that ginger is going to be a side effect to something. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but you know, you can always ask about that. But you might find a lot of relief. I've had a lot of people say, oh man, that's all I needed is I just needed my food to move through my system a little bit more quickly, and I'm feeling a lot of relief. So I'll leave you with that one also. And then one more, I'm going to add one more. I'll type it in here too. Stinging nettle tea. Stinging nettle it's just a leaf, but it's a natural antihistamine. Who has allergies? Anybody have allergies? Like environmental allergies, not food allergies? How many of you take like Zyrtec or some other type of medication that makes you feel really drowsy or just kind of like, ugh? Or maybe you just don't love the idea of having to take another medication. This is the answer. Let me say it less black and white. This could be very helpful for you. So it's a natural antihistamine, and the issue with allergies is that it activates our histamine system, which makes you feel that like, itchy ears, scratchy throat, maybe your nose tingles, you get it in your eyes. Darcy, okay, here you go. So drinking just a couple cups of this stinging nettle tea each day is hugely helpful. I don't have a ton of allergies, but this year, it hit me in a weird way, and so I drank some of this tea. Instant relief for myself, instant. So you can get this at most grocery stores. It's not that weird of a thing. And if you want to add a little honey to it, if you want to add a little lemon, that would be totally, totally fine. It tastes green, not like green tea. It tastes like a leaf. That's what it tastes like. So if you prefer to kind of brew it and then drink it cold and mix it in with a little honey or syrup or something like that, that might be better. But it's not bad. I drink it just as is. It's not, and it's a much better option than having to depend on a medication all the time. Environmental allergies, they are what they are. We live around trees and plants. So, okay. So tell me, what are your questions? What questions do we have? Let me go back and read a few here. Okay. Brittany, is there a way to know whether you have too much acid or not enough? Well, there is. It's a little bit of a guessing game, though. It's a little bit of a guessing game. Honestly, I would try taking the DGL. Try taking the DGL. If that helps you, then you can decide from there. That's and it's not a clear answer because the alternative is doing this. You can get hydrochloric acid capsules. This is what people will do under the direct guidance of a professional who's helping them with this. You can buy hydrochloric acid tablets, which is just a supplement version of stomach acid. It sounds very dramatic, doesn't it? And basically, you can take, so before each meal, you would take, for example, 2 capsules and then eat. If you don't feel heartburn, then the next meal you would take 3 capsules. If you don't feel heartburn, the next time you would take 4 capsules. If you don't feel heartburn, 5 capsules. Oh no, I have heartburn. Drink a little baking soda and water to help with that. And then the next meal, you'll continue to go back to the 4 capsules, and then that will help you determine, okay, I can add acid to my system and I don't feel heartburn just from adding the 1, probably a sign that you have low stomach acid. It's not a perfect test. But it is something that you can play around with on your own. You have stomach ulcers, or if you think you have stomach ulcers, this is not something that you should do. And I will say that one of the super, super, super common causes of decreased stomach acid, actually there are 2. One is stress, shocking. And the second is a bacterial infection called H. pylori. Have you all heard of that before, H. pylori? H. pylori is a bacterial infection that lives in the lining of the stomach. It kind of corkscrews into the lining of the stomach, and one of the things it does is it causes the suppression of stomach acid. And so, Brittany, specifically, because you asked, if you find yourself, oh, okay, good, this hydrochloric acid is really helping, I'm feeling much better, my food is digesting better, the question that we want to ask next is, why do you have low stomach acid? Right? And this is how we want to move through all of this process, constantly asking why, until we can get to the root cause of an issue. And if you have H. pylori, that would be a root cause. Maybe you just have stress. Maybe, there could be a million other things. So just to put out in your mind that these are some of the things that you can be thinking about is really important. I want you to at least be able to take your thoughts and ask the right types of questions for yourselves, okay? Okay, perfect. Who else has any other questions about anything that we talked about? Because we did kind of cover quite a bit today. We talked about the 6 or 7 things really that you also might want to consider using to replace some of the things that your gut needs. All of those, I would say you want to start thinking about why are they working and why are they helping so that you can continue to get to the root cause. And then we also talked about how do we want to structure the foods that you're eating so that you make sure that you can get the most out of what you need for your gut health. And we did that via variety through color and looking at what's in season. Now, this brings me to one of the points that we were talking about yesterday, where part of what some of you might be feeling is just simply that you do not understand how it is you should be taking care of yourself in terms of food. You just simply might not feel totally confident understanding how to feed yourself. Pause on that thought. I'm going to look at Eileen's question. Does gut healing powder help IBS? Often. It depends on what the root cause of your IBS is, Eileen, or whoever might also be thinking about, looking at this training for IBS. It depends on the root cause, but it can absolutely help because, IBS, inflammatory bowel syndrome. And so a lot of what these gut healing powders will have in them are these beautiful anti-inflammatory properties that will really be gentle and help kind of put that fire out. But again, if it's going to be a Band-Aid, we want to understand how long is the Band-Aid going to work for before you're going to have to take that deeper dive and really deal with the issue. Now, part of your issue you may be able to uncover after our discussion yesterday. You might be able to pinpoint enough foods that are causing the issue to be able to remove them so that, maybe that's your primary root problem. So that's definitely a worthwhile starting point for you, okay? Or anybody else who's suffering from IBS. Or you might not officially have an IBS diagnosis, and you just know because you know yourself, and that would be enough too. Does that help, Eileen? Okay, so getting back to what I was just going to share with you all is I've got this course for those of you who need way more specific hand-holding about how to actually think about how to eat, how to feed yourself, how to nourish your body in more aspects than just talking about gut health. If you are one of those people that you wake up and every morning you think to yourself, I have no idea if what I'm putting in my body is helping me or hurting me. I have no idea if I should be listening to this advice or this advice or this advice or this advice, and all of that advice contradicts itself, doesn't it? We all have been there. If you're feeling this way, this is the course for you to be considering. It is a 6-week course. It's literally called Learn How to Feed Yourself, and we go through really in-depth topics about how you can start restructuring the way that you think and the way that you make decisions to make sure that you feel totally confident and are completely in the know about what your body needs, how much and what and where and why, all of it. We dig into all of it. I've got tons of resources for you. You get 6 little mini workbooks, so one every single week. And right now we're doing early bird pricing. So you're getting a $200 discount. And this is the first place that I'm mentioning this. The first 7 people who register for this course get a completely free 1-hour one-on-one session with me after the 6 weeks. And in that session, we do laser coaching to help you figure out exactly what your next step needs to be. And so we take all of the information that you learned in the 6 weeks, we bring in all of the stuff that's already happening for you, and we make decisions. What are your next steps? What do you need moving forward? And it's a completely free session. So that's being gifted to the first 7 people who decide to register. So you guys are the first 6 people to know about that. So share with your friends if you feel inclined, and take a look at the course. I'll put the link in here for you so that you can access that. And I think that's it. I think that's it for today. Do we have any last minute questions? I'll be checking the feed in a little bit also, so that I can get back to anybody who's watching this a little bit later, or who might think of a question after we're all wrapped up here. So don't hesitate. You guys know you can always message me. I'm here for you. The whole point of doing this is to provide you with some guidance and some answers, and tons of tremendous value. So if you are in a place where everything that we talked about today feels way more overwhelming than helpful, please let me know, and I will do everything that I can to help guide you in a direction that feels a little more reasonable for yourselves. Okay. All right, everybody. I'm going to sign off here, and I'll check back in later today to see what questions come up. Thank you all so much for joining me. I'm grateful. I hope that you had some inspiration here. Okay. All right. Enjoy the rest of the week, everyone.